3D Disney acrylic nail art tutorial, and this is the Cruella design. And here are the rest of the designs in this little series. So I'm going to begin by creating a thin overlay with red acrylic. And I'm keeping this really thin because with the 3D art on top of it, if you don't keep your overlay thin, then it is going to get just super thick. And if you are going to plan on wearing these, you are going to want it a little thicker than mine is just for the strength. But adding that 3D art is going to add strength as well. So don't be too concerned about it. It can stay really thin. So then on the left side of the nail tip, you're going to be wanting to add her black hair. So just stay on that side. And the top of her hair, she's got sort of wild looking bangs. So it's like a puff of hair that just sort of sticks up and out to the side. So that's what I'm starting with. And just make sure it's got all those little spikes coming off of it so it doesn't look smooth. Her hair isn't smooth, it's kind of wild. And then create the other part of her hair coming down from that side. And I'm just going to want to keep it super thin going towards the middle so that when I sculpt her face on top, it's not looking too heavy and too thick. So you want to keep it thin as well. This whole process, you want to keep it thin. And as you can see, I'm sort of pushing it off to the side of the nail, and this is going to add more 3D look so the sides of the nail aren't super smooth. They're actually going to be a little bit crazy looking. And then I just a little flick of hair off to the side. So then once that black has set, and you want to make sure that it has set because otherwise it's going to blend in with your white, repeat the process with the white. And the little side of bangs that is on with the white side overlaps the black. So it has that round shape, and it's also going to overlap her forehead once we get to that stage. But we're not quite there yet, so don't worry about it. And then add the white going down. And white acrylic isn't nearly as bright as white paint. So I'm going to be adding, I'm going to cover it up with white paint later on. So if your white acrylic does get a little muddy looking from any black residue, it is okay. So then using sort of a tan gray kind of green color, sculpt her face. If you look at pictures of Cruella, you're going to see that her complexion is several different colors. It ranges from almost white to kind of a gray color. Sometimes it looks sort of green. So you can really pick whatever color you want. Mine is sort of a gray tan color, and it's actually a little too dark. So later on I did highlight it with white paint, and that really made it bright. So I would almost suggest starting it with a little bit dark so that you can lighten it later, and that's just going to add some more dimension. So then the top of her head is almost a pill shape, and she's got really strong cheekbones and a really strong jaw. So you're going to want to make sure that the bottom of her face has all those really sharp looking features. And if you sculpt villains, you're going to notice that they all have really sharp looking features, really bold face shapes. So that follows the same thing for Cruella. So make sure that all of her lines are really sharp looking. And then add her neck below that. So her neck is going to cover up the line between her white and her black hair. So make sure that it's right on top of that line. And then her chest below. So just sort of fill in the rest of that nail tip. So now I'm going to be thickening her brow bone, and I'm going to also be adding like the bridge of her nose and her cheekbones. I'm giving her face some dimension, and so you're going to want to leave her eye sockets thinner. So you're going to want to make sure that you leave the space where her eyes are. So basically figure out where her eyebrows are going to be and leave below that the thinner acrylic. If that makes any sense. Just watch and hopefully you'll see. Anyways, so then make sure that you sculpt the bridge of her nose, and this is all going to dictate where her eyes are later. So if you get this part right, painting her eyes is going to be a breeze. So it's really important to take your time with this and not try and rush through it. And then also thicken her cheekbones. And also, you're going to want to really thicken up her jaw. That'll help distinguish between her jawline and her neck. So then, as I mentioned, we're going to be adding her nose, and you're going to want to make sure that this is a very stiff bead. So really take all of the liquid out of the back of your brush. And then her nose is sort of a triangle shape pointing up. So she's got a pushed up nose, and then you're also going to want to poke in her nostrils with the very tip of your brush. So having a nice small sculpting brush is really good for doing this part. So now using bright green acrylic, I'm going to be forming her eyelids, and I am sculpting her eyelids. You could paint them just with acrylic paint instead of the sculpting acrylic, but I thought making them dimensional too would be good because, well, your eyelids are dimensional. So I'm going to be doing the rest of her eye details though with just paint later. So yeah. So now I'm going to be thickening the white side of her bangs and overlapping it over her forehead just a little bit, as I mentioned. And so just basically cutting out just a little bite out of the side of her head. So then down below, I'm going to just be overlapping a little bit of her chest area with a couple strands of black hair. So then with white paint, I'm going to be filling in her eyes. And as I mentioned before, it's really easy because I already have that area blocked out. So there's already a perfect little spot between her eyelids and her cheekbones where her hair, or where her eyelids fit. So then I'm also going to be highlighting her hair, as I mentioned before, using the white paint. And instead of just covering it up solid, I'm going to be taking a thin brush and making little lines to give the hair some direction and some texture. And this is just going to make Cruella look just a little bit better too. So then using watered down white paint, so basically dip your brush in a tiny bit of paint and then swirl around with water for a second. The water will help dilute the paint and then you can just blend it over. I'm going to be highlighting her face. As you can see, her face color was a little bit too dark. She's fairly pale looking. And so doing this highlighting is going to help anyways, because that way she's already got highlights and lowlights. Once you just highlight the areas, the lowlights are the color of the original acrylic. The areas you want to highlight are the areas that are forward more. So her forehead, her nose, her cheekbones, and her chin is really where you want to focus. But I'm going to blend it out over everything just because, like I said, it was a little dark looking. But those are the areas you want to be the lightest in color. And then also go over her neck and chest. So now with black paint, I'm going to be adding her eyebrows, and because of where I stopped with her eye socket, her eyebrows are already in place, like I said. And Cruella, usually you see her when she's got one eyebrow that's raised a lot higher than the other one. So that's what I'm doing here. So the one is a little bit higher up than the one on the black side of her hair is higher than the other one. I'm going to fill in her nostrils, add her pupils, and eyeliner. So then with red paint, I'm going to be adding her lips. And Cruella has very thin lips and a very big grin. So she's got lots of space between her upper and lower lips. So now fill in her mouth with white paint, and if you need to fix up the lines of the red, you can thin them out in this stage too. So now separate her teeth with a very, very thin black line. Again, if this gets too thick, you can always thin it out with some white. And of course, add a layer of top coat. I'm going to be first covering up the red area in the back with a glossy top coat. And then I'm going to be applying matte top coat over Cruella, and I'm going to really focus on the areas that have the acrylic paint. So in this particular situation, that is pretty much everything but her black hair. And you can cover her black hair anyway, it's not like it hurts anything. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you like this design. Please check out the rest of the tutorials in this collection. They are all fabulous, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!